June 6, 1944, 6:30 a.m. Normandy, France. The first landing craft crashes onto the beaches of Normandy. Steel ramps slam into the surf. Machine gun fire erupts instantly. German bullets tear through rows of American, British, and Canadian soldiers before many of them can even step into the water. Men disappear beneath the waves. Others stagger forward through chest-deep surf, weighed down by nearly 80 pounds of equipment. The sea turns red. Above them, artillery shells rip apart the shoreline. Concrete bunkers spit streams of machine gun fire across open sand. Every obstacle hidden beneath the tide is designed to rip open landing craft or trap advancing infantry in perfect killing zones. This is Operation Overlord, the largest amphibious invasion in history. More than 135,000 Allied soldiers are landing in France today. Every minute matters. Every mistake will cost thousands of lives. Yet long before the first soldier reaches these beaches, long before the bombers roar overhead, long before the invasion fleet crosses the English Channel, a teenage girl sits quietly beside a window in occupied France. Two knitting needles move calmly through a ball of wool. Click, click, click. To anyone watching, she looks harmless, just another young woman passing the time beneath the watchful eyes of the German occupation. German soldiers walk past her almost every day. Some even smile. None of them suspect that every movement of those knitting needles carries information more valuable than gold. The pattern she appears to be knitting is not a sweater. It is intelligence. Every stitch hides military secrets. Every row records troop movements. Every mistake could expose an entire resistance network. If the Germans discover what those needles truly mean, interrogation will come first. Execution will follow. Yet somehow, the information she gathers will travel across occupied Europe. It will reach Britain. It will help Allied planners understand the defenses waiting behind the beaches of Normandy. And when dawn finally breaks on June 6, 1944, countless commanders will make life-or-death decisions using intelligence collected by people who never carry rifles, never wear uniforms, and rarely receive medals. History remembers the generals. It remembers the tanks, the battleships, the paratroopers. But sometimes the success of the greatest military operation ever attempted depends on someone the enemy never considers dangerous. A girl, a pair of knitting needles, and a secret so unbelievable that it sounds like fiction, but it isn't, because this story didn't begin on D-Day. It began years earlier, with one ordinary girl who discovered that the safest place to hide a weapon was in plain sight. Autumn 1940. Occupied France. France has fallen. German troops march through Paris beneath fluttering swastika banners. Railway stations fill with Wehrmacht soldiers. Convoys rumble through villages once untouched by war. Every public building now carries the insignia of the Third Reich. For millions of French civilians, daily life changes overnight. Food is rationed. Newspapers are censored. Curfews become routine. Every stranger could be an informant. Every careless conversation could end with a knock on the door after midnight. Fear settles over the country like a permanent fog. But beneath that fear, another force is beginning to grow, the French resistance. At first, it is scattered and disorganized. Teachers, railway workers, shopkeepers, priests, students, and farmers all begin resisting in small ways. Some hide escaped Allied airmen. Others sabotage rail lines or pass messages between underground cells. Among them is a teenage girl who understands something many adults do not. The Germans watch soldiers. They watch policemen. They watch men of fighting age. They do not watch young girls knitting. That assumption becomes her greatest weapon. Each morning she carries a basket containing yarn, knitting needles, and what appears to be an unfinished scarf. Nothing about her attracts attention. German patrols barely glance in her direction. Sometimes they even step aside politely as she walks past. She smiles. She keeps knitting. She never hurries, because hurrying attracts suspicion. Instead, she spends hours near places most civilians avoid: railway stations, road junctions, bridges, military depots, anywhere German units gather before moving elsewhere. She appears completely absorbed in counting stitches. In reality, she is counting something else: the number of railway cars arriving, the markings painted on military vehicles, the insignia worn by armored divisions, fuel tankers, artillery pieces, engineering equipment, and the direction every convoy travels. She notices details trained soldiers often overlook. How many trucks pass in 10 minutes? Whether new anti-aircraft guns have appeared, how long trains remain unloaded. Even changes in uniforms tell a story. A fresh division arriving from the Eastern Front, a coastal defense unit moving north, construction engineers appearing where none stood before. Individually, each observation seems meaningless. Together, they reveal German intentions. The challenge is remembering everything without writing it down. Paper is dangerous. If German police search her belongings and discover notes, there will be no explanation convincing enough to save her. So she turns to something she has known since childhood: knitting. Every stitch becomes part of a code. A knit stitch means one thing. A purl stitch means another. Different combinations represent numbers. Repeated patterns indicate troop types. Changes in spacing separate locations. What appears to be a simple scarf is actually a carefully designed cipher hidden in plain sight. Even if a German soldier examines her work, he sees nothing unusual. Just yarn, just wool, just another civilian trying to survive the occupation. Exactly what she wants him to believe. But collecting information is only half the mission. Getting out of occupied France is far more dangerous. Resistance couriers travel by bicycle, on foot, or aboard overcrowded trains. Each journey risks arrest. German checkpoints appear without warning. Bags are searched. Identity papers examined. Passengers questioned. Anyone carrying suspicious material may simply disappear. To protect the network, no one knows more than necessary. One courier receives a knitted piece. Another memorizes the coded pattern. A third transports it to a safe house. Eventually, the information reaches radio operators hidden across France. These operators face perhaps the deadliest job in the resistance. Their wireless sets connect occupied Europe with Britain. Every transmission lasts only minutes as German radio detection vans search relentlessly for illegal broadcasts. Yet despite arrests and executions, the intelligence continues flowing across the English Channel. Inside Britain, analysts compare reports from dozens of resistance networks until scattered observations become certainty. Slowly, a clearer picture of Hitler's Atlantic Wall emerges. Every coded message adds another piece of the puzzle, helping answer the question that matters more than any other. Where can the Allies land and survive? Far away in London, planners prepare for the greatest invasion in history, knowing that if even one resistance network is exposed too early, every beach in Normandy could become an even deadlier trap. The greatest gamble of the Second World War is already underway, long before the first Allied soldier ever sees the coast of France. Spring 1944. Southern England. The invasion is no longer an idea. It is a countdown. Across southern England, thousands of Allied soldiers disappear behind SEAL camps. Barbed wire surrounds entire divisions. Mail is censored. Leave is canceled. No one enters. No one leaves. Every man knows something enormous is coming. Almost no one knows where. Meanwhile, across the English Channel, Adolf Hitler remains convinced the main invasion will strike at the Pas-de-Calais, the shortest crossing between Britain and France. The Germans pour concrete, lay millions of mines, reinforce bunkers, and station powerful armored divisions where they believe the blow will fall. The Allies intend to exploit that certainty. Through an elaborate deception campaign, they create phantom armies, inflatable tanks, fake radio traffic, and imaginary headquarters. German intelligence is fed a steady stream of false clues. But deception alone is not enough. The planners still need the truth. They need to know what is really happening along the Norman coast. That truth continues to come from occupied France. Night after night, resistance members watch German convoys moving toward the beaches. They count locomotives pulling flat cars loaded with artillery. They note where anti-tank obstacles appear, where beach defenses multiply, and where fresh units quietly replace exhausted ones. Among those observers are people whose greatest disguise is their ordinary appearance. A schoolteacher, a fisherman, a postman, an elderly widow, and one young woman whose knitting needles continue to click rhythmically as German soldiers pass within arm's reach. She never asks questions. She only watches. A convoy of trucks heads west. A fuel train arrives before dawn. Engineers unload rolls of barbed wire. New concrete pillboxes appear overlooking the sea. Every detail is committed to memory. Later, as will slips through her fingers, the information quietly takes shape inside another innocent-looking piece of knitting. No maps, no written notes, only patterns. To anyone else, it is a scarf. To those who know the code, it is a battlefield report. The coded information begins another dangerous journey. From one resistance contact to another, across villages, through forests, past German checkpoints, and into hidden safe houses. Finally, it reaches clandestine radio operators who transmit it to Britain in carefully timed bursts before dismantling their equipment and vanishing again into the shadows. Each successful transmission feels like a miracle. One mistake could destroy the entire network. One informant could doom everyone connected to it. The Gestapo knows resistance spies are everywhere. They increase arrests. Interrogations grow more brutal. Rewards are offered for information. Entire families disappear after a single accusation. Still, the reports continue. In London, intelligence officers compare every message against area reconnaissance, intercepted communications, and reports from other resistance cells. Patterns begin to emerge. Some German positions are stronger than expected. Others remain surprisingly vulnerable. Roads suitable for armored counterattacks are identified. Railway bottlenecks become obvious. Bridges that could rapidly move German reinforcements are marked for destruction by Allied bombers and French saboteurs. Every confirmed detail allows the invasion planners to reduce uncertainty, not eliminate it, just reduce it. Because no one can predict exactly what will happen once the first landing craft reach the beaches. Then comes the order. Resistance groups across France receive coded messages from the BBC. To ordinary listeners, the broadcasts sound like meaningless poetry. To the resistance, they are unmistakable. The invasion is imminent. Operations begin immediately. Railroads are sabotaged. Telephone lines are cut. Bridges are blown apart. Signal cables vanish overnight. German commanders suddenly find that trains are delayed, communications fail, and reinforcements move far more slowly than planned. Every hour they lose is an hour gained for the soldiers crossing the channel. Then, June 5, 1944, nearly 7,000 ships leave England. Thousands of aircraft fill the night sky. Paratroopers vanish into the darkness over Normandy. The largest amphibious invasion ever attempted is finally underway. Hours later, as dawn breaks over the French coast, the beaches erupt into chaos. The fighting is every bit as savage as Allied planners feared. Machine guns rake the surf. Landing craft explode. Entire units are pinned down. Yet despite the confusion, commanders possess something they did not have months earlier: knowledge. Knowledge of German strong points. Knowledge of defensive layouts. Knowledge earned not only through reconnaissance aircraft and naval intelligence, but through countless ordinary civilians who risked everything to observe an occupying army. Among them was a young woman whose knitting needles never looked dangerous. The Germans saw wool. The Allies saw intelligence. And on the longest day of the war, those hidden stitches became part of victory measured not in yarn, but in lives. The sun begins to set over Normandy. The beaches are still littered with shattered landing craft, twisted steel, abandoned equipment, and the fallen. But despite the terrible cost, the impossible has happened. The Allies have secured a foothold in Hitler's fortress Europe. More than 135,000 Allied soldiers have crossed the English Channel on the first day alone. Thousands have been killed, wounded, or are still missing. Yet the beachheads hold. The liberation of Western Europe has begun. In the weeks that follow, more than 1 million Allied troops pour into France. Town after town is liberated. German forces, once thought unstoppable, are slowly pushed back toward the heart of the Third Reich. Behind every advancing army are countless stories that never appear in official battle reports. The names of generals fill history books. The commanders receive medals. The divisions earn battle honors. But thousands of ordinary civilians remain almost invisible. The French resistance had no uniforms, no tanks, no air force, no battleships. Their weapons were patience, observation, courage, and silence. They gathered intelligence, sabotaged railways, hit Allied airmen, disrupted communications, and delayed German reinforcements at the very moment every hour mattered most. Their contribution did not replace the bravery of the soldiers who stormed the beaches, but it strengthened their chances of surviving them. Among those quiet heroes were young women who understood that the most powerful disguise was often the simplest one: a basket of yarn, a pair of knitting needles, a harmless smile, things the occupying army barely noticed. Whether every legend surrounding coded knitting is true has been debated by historians, but one truth is beyond dispute. Throughout occupied Europe, women played an extraordinary role as couriers, observers, code carriers, and intelligence agents. Time and again, they used everyday objects and ordinary routines to move information beneath the noses of the enemy. That is what makes this story so remarkable. Heroism is not always loud. It does not always charge across a battlefield or fire a rifle. Sometimes it sits quietly on a park bench. Sometimes it waits beside a railway station. Sometimes it looks like an ordinary girl knitting while history passes in front of her. The German occupation taught people that survival often depended on remaining unnoticed. The resistance proved that remaining unnoticed could also become a weapon. On June 6, 1944, the world witnessed one of history's greatest military victories. But victories of that scale are rarely built by famous names alone. They are built by thousands of unseen hands, each doing one small, dangerous task with unwavering determination. History remembers D-Day for the soldiers who landed on its beaches. It should also remember the quiet courage of those who helped make that landing possible. People whose greatest strength was convincing the enemy they posed no threat at all. Because sometimes the smallest acts of resistance leave the largest mark on history.